Hi everyone, this is Mr. Wad. In this tutorial I'm going to walk you through the steps in the inquiry cycle. For more details about each of these steps, you can watch different video tutorials that will walk you through each of them. So in this tutorial I'm just gonna give you an overview of the steps that you take at the beginning of each inquiry cycle, which basically begins at the beginning of a unit. So to start the inquiry cycle, you begin with problem formulation. In this step, you are basically familiarizing yourself with the inquiry question. You are thinking about how you will approach the question, any additional supporting questions that may guide you in your research, and any initial thoughts or hypothesis that you may have. Following problem formulation, you get into the research stage, which is the longest part of the inquiry cycle. In this step, you are choosing sources one at a time to analyze. In order to analyze those sources, you will select source analysis tools that would guide you to look deeper and analyze the source in greater detail. You have an option of about 10 or more source analysis tools to use. And following your analysis of each, I'm going to emphasize each source, you record evidence from that source into the research organizer. This step is important that you actually pause following your analysis of a source and record evidence from that source into the research organizer, so that you won't find yourself confused later on if you wait. After the research step is interpretation. This is basically the step that allows you to take all of the evidence that you've gathered from the different sources and make sense of them, see any similarities or differences between the sources, seeing whether any sources contradict your initial thoughts, and seeing whether there is a pattern in the sources that would guide you towards developing a claim. Okay, so this step is important because this is the part where you develop your position, identify any sources that support your position, and identify any sources that go against your position. Okay, so once you've done that, once you've identified the sources that will help or go against your claim, you move on to the communication part. But before moving on to that, you would have to complete an interpretation organizer. There are a series of questions that guide your thinking in this organizer. So it's important that you do that and not jump to the communication part unless you've completed it. So following the interpretation step, you move on to communication. That's basically you taking evidence and counter evidence from your interpretation organizer and from your research organizer to develop your product. This is where you basically communicate your claim and your supporting claim and provide any rebuttals. But to guide you in this process, step 1 of communication is to complete the communication organizer. That way you have all the evidence that you will be using in one place, and then following that step, you will produce that product that communicates your claim and your supporting claim. Now, the communication organizer in step 1 also gives you the space that you need to explain the relevance, or why the evidence that you are using is important, and how it either proves or disproves your claim. Okay, doing that will make this part, step 2 of communication, much more easier, much easier for that. All right, and after you've done that, you review, even though it's not stated here, but the expectation is that you review the evidence, you review your claim, your supporting evidence, etc. After that, you move on to the self-assessment and the conferencing step. The first step of this part is to complete a inquiry process self-assessment, which is a checklist where you reflect on your performance on each part of the inquiry cycle. And in that checklist, you have the various different standards that you are assessed on. And once you've completed this, and once you've given your explanation for why you feel that way, why you feel that you perform in that way on each step, you provide an explanation or what you will be doing in order to improve. It's important that you go back to the other self-assessment checks that you made in the previous pages to help you do that. So once you've done that, you then sign up for a conference with myself, Ms. Gortich, or Ms. Milligan, and we will then conference with you to guide you in improving on the inquiry cycle. And this right here, this arrow, indicates that you will be repeating this as needed. So this is just the steps in order that you should follow. Okay, hopefully this tutorial is helpful, and just watch it if you want to review the steps. I know it could be confusing sometimes exactly what you are expected to do in each step, and what step comes before the other or what comes after the other. So just review it as needed, and hopefully it helps. I'll see you in class, and stay focused.